Well, when it comes to Overwatch 2, there are a lot of mistakes or flaws that you can have as a DPS, a tank, or a healer that you may not even notice just because you kind of do what everyone does. And trust me, when it comes to a strategic game like Overwatch, you don't want to do what everyone does because you pretty much fall into the same tunnel. So we're going to be taking an in-depth look into pretty much all the roles, and I'm going to keep it a very general guide for you guys just so that it's easy to follow and you can pretty much incorporate it into your playstyle, and hopefully it fits your playstyle because there's so many different types of playstyles. Some people are very aggressive, some people like to kind of stay back and behind their tanks or healers. So hopefully this is going to be very helpful for you guys. Before we dive into this, if you're not subscribed, do me a favor, make sure you guys scroll down, make sure you are subscribed. There's going to be a lot more guides coming in the future episodes, and without taking any of you guys' precious time, let's get straight into this guide. Alright, so we're going to be starting pretty much with counter picks, right? What are counter picks? If you're not familiar with the term, if you haven't really played any other game besides Overwatch that has the similar playstyle as Overwatch, pretty much what it is you won't really notice it unless you get up in the ranks, similar to like gold, platinum, etc., right? So what it is basically is if you were to pick a hero, right, the enemy team would pick a hero that would pretty much be a counter to the hero that you picked. Very self-explanatory. However, there's a lot more to it, right? So generally speaking, some game modes you have in Overwatch are attack, defend, objectives, escort the payload, etc., right? So when you're attacking, there's multiple objectives, right, that you have to get through. Generally speaking, it would be around 2 or 3 objectives depending on the map or the game mode you're playing. So basically, know the map that you are playing, right? So in the first objective that you have to get through, maybe there's a lot of buildings, maybe there's some bridges that you can kind of hide over, some covers to take, some nice peaks to take, etc., for rotation, right? So when the second objective comes, you need to be aware of the location on the map. Maybe you have to switch heroes right when the second objective comes, right? So for the first objective, you might have better peaks. Second objective, you have less peaks. So you'd want to go with a hero that has a lot more mobility so you're able to maneuver around the map, right? So this can be a whole video on its own, what heroes to switch to, when to switch to, and just how do you basically pick different heroes for different situations, right? A veteran Overwatch 2 player that has played a lot of competitive and was in the competitive scene knows this very well, and you pretty much get it through experience. So once again, my biggest tip here for you guys would be to pretty much know which heroes are good for which positions and just to play every single hero. Once again, right, I said this in my previous guide, once you play multiple heroes, you'll know which ones are good for certain situations, which one you're more comfortable with, and believe me, be completely comfortable with switching in between heroes. A lot of people feel like when they build up their ult on a certain hero, they have to use the ult, they deserved it, and believe me, you did, but maybe switching that hero is going to save you the game and is going to save your team. So keep this tip in mind because I think a lot of people overlook it. So for the next tip here for this guide, basically this is probably one of the most important tips out there that I cannot stress enough, that trust me myself making this guide, I struggled with quite a bit. Especially if you're playing random queue, it could be very difficult to tackle this one properly, as it is much easier with a team that you have communication with very well, etc., right? So what you're going to want to do here for this tip is you're going to want to combo your ults, right? This is the biggest mistake a lot of people do, right? So from hero to hero, different ults mean different things, right? That's honestly the beauty of Overwatch 2, which is why I absolutely fell in love with this game and started making content on this game, right? I basically new to Overwatch 2. I never even played Overwatch 1, right? So it's a really fun experience for me, which I hope you guys are experiencing the same. So going into this tip here, right? So what you're going to want to do for the combo of ults is you're going to want to know when your teammates ults are ready versus, this is the key right here, when your enemy team ults are ready, right? For example, certain heroes, right, have ults that can change the entire game, right? For instance, let's look at one of the most famous ults, the one we all hate the most, right, which is probably the most annoying one, which I hope gets nerfed very soon, and I'm sure you guys hope the same. D.Va's ult, right? Very simple, very self-explanatory, right? Requires pretty much 0 to no skill there. You pretty much go in, you throw your D.Va robot thing in there, it explodes, and dealing I think upwards of 200 plus damage. So if you're a squishy hero, if you're a healer, or if you're a squishy DPS, you pretty much get one-shotted if you don't avoid it or hide behind projectiles. So for that hero, right, there isn't really much comboing you need to do. Just make sure the enemy team is CC'd, make sure they aren't able to run away or they've used all their mobility. You throw it in there if it's timed perfectly, and especially if they don't see you. It could be very hard to hear the ult going off, right, or the character cues, etc. You throw it in there and you pretty much wipe them out. Now other ults, like for example Hanzo, Myra, Zarya, etc. are going to be much harder to use in combo just because they are very, very powerful and deadly, right? Probably more deadly than D.Vas just because they traverse the map a lot more and can deal a lot more damage, right? D.Va's not that powerful once again, right? Because when she uses her ult, she comes out of her suit and you can kill her pretty easily if you're quick with it, right? So make sure you guys are comboing those ults well. I can make a whole nother guide on this, but like once again, I promised you guys at the beginning of this video, I want to keep this very general, very simple, and I want to go into a lot more topics to make it as useful for you guys as possible. So make sure you guys do subscribe to stay tuned for other videos where I go into detail with all the alts, how you can combo them very well with other heroes. And yeah, let's move on to the next point. Okay, this is pretty much the point in the video where you guys are not going to like this tip because it's going to make you more uncomfortable. And trust me, in life, if there's one thing I learned is when things make you uncomfortable, they're probably doing you a favor, right? So this is going to be basically making sure you are not a one-trick hero. Now, this term has been around the Overwatch community for a while. I'm pretty sure other games as well, such as Valorant, League of Legends, etc. A lot of popular names and platforms out there. Now, what does it mean to not be a one-trick hero, right? This means making sure that you can play multiple heroes. Why? For example, if you get counterpicked, which I explained in the beginning of this video, you can pick another hero and you're not sitting there shambled playing with a hero like you're an absolute noob in plat, but you're a complete god with other hero, right? You don't want to be that because that's just embarrassing and you're gonna basically cost your team the win. It's not good. It's not a good look for you, right? Especially if you're trying to get on the competitive scene, play Overwatch League, etc. So what you're gonna want to do here is make sure that you can, first of all, I highly recommend at least know how to play 2 roles very well. I cannot stress this point enough, right? A lot of people don't know how to do this and it absolutely shaggles my mind. It is crazy, right? What this means is there's 3 main roles, as you guys know, right? We got a tank, DPS, and a healer. Do not be a one-trick Andy, right? Even if you can play multiple DPS, if all you can do is DPS, that is not good, right? What if someone on your team wants to DPS too? Then you're pretty much going to be sitting there like, oh, I need to DPS, and you're going to cause problems, especially if it's random queue, right? Or with a team, right? Make sure you can do 2 at least. Now, do you need to master all 3? By all means, if you're that good and if they're that talented like me. No, I'm just kidding. But make sure you can do at least 2. That's going to get you very far. And personally, I would recommend DPS and healer just because those 2 are high in demand. Tank doesn't really require as much skill as DPS and healer. So for me, I mained Myra and I also mained Mercy with a lot of DPS there with Sojourn, etc. As you guys know, is absolutely broken right now, right? So once again, make sure you guys can main at least 2 roles. And when it comes to heroes as well, make sure you guys can play multiple. So my trick here, or I guess my tip for this one is play a hero. You'll be bad your first game, you'll be bad your second game, you'll be okay your third game, so on and so forth. When you master that hero, start dropping maybe 30 kills, 2 deaths, and just absolutely wrecking havoc with that hero. I'd recommend you switch those heroes, right? Do this a full rotation, and before you know it, you'll be good at a lot of heroes and you'll be basically well-rounded Overwatch League player basically, right? So I think this tip is huge, so definitely pay attention to this one if you guys completely missed the other tips that I've given out so far. And that will pretty much wrap up this guide for you guys. Like I said, it's going to be very short and sweet for you guys. Just some 3 good tips for you guys to follow. Very general. Once again, you probably know all 3 of them, but hopefully with me going into detail into each one, you pretty much understand the importance of each one. Now, there's a lot more things I can dive into for each specific one. One tip on its own can be a whole video, and each one can be a whole video of its own, etc. The list goes on, but you know me, I like things to be short, sweet, and simple. So go down there, take a simple second out of your day and subscribe. If that wasn't smooth, I don't know what is. This has been your boy iTeHee. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care and peace.